He stared at the sword that was embedded in the stone. It was beautiful. So beautiful. A masterpiece. Never in his life had he seen a sword so beautiful. So charming. Just by standing close, he could feel its regal aura. It was powerful, firm and flawless. Its shape matched its aura perfectly and made it even more beautiful. This sword embedded in this stone is salvation, a sword that will save his country. There was no need to think any further, he already reached a decision. Without hesitation, his hand rose, reached out for the sword that will save his country and, no. You should think things through before taking this. When he turned around, before him was the most feared magus in the country. He could feel her intense gaze under her hood, observing him, judging him. He did not flinch away from her gaze and only returned an equal gaze. You will no longer be human once you take a hold of that sword, she said with a melodic yet firm voice. Do you know what this means? He answered only with a nod. Becoming the king meant no longer being human. He was prepared for that ever since he was born. In short, a king is someone who kills anyone to protect everyone. The young man thought about it every night and shuddered until morning came. No days passed without fearing that fact. It will end today, he said with absolute determination. The sword was pulled out as if he was born to do so, and the place was filled with light. In that instant, he became something more. He became a king. And thus, the time of the king who would become a legend began. Event list: demonic beasts, incident where children are kidnapped. Melee is the beast tamer, from the same organization as Elsa. Approach with caution. White whale and Betelgeuse assault, a few days after the royal selection. Enemies: Betelgeuse has invisible hands that are capable of destroying boulders and tearing apart people without difficulty. Immortal, have 10 members that are connected to him so he can move his soul to them after his death. Can corrupt and drive those who have no knowledge of spirit magic mad by letting out black waves. White whale has 2 mists. First is a mist that cause people's mana to go crazy and harm themselves. Second is a mist that erase someone's whole existence. And it also can split itself into 3 parts where 2 body were decoys while the main one escape or wait until its clones kill its enemy. Solution: facing them alone won't be wise, be it Betelgeuse or White Whale. Betelgeuse have an army, so face him with another army. Negotiating with Crush or Anastasia is the best, use tactic like in canon, offer White Whale to them. Betelgeuse has some device that link him to his Horcrux-like people. Use it to find them and destroy all fingers, then kill Betelgeuse by chopping him into pieces. If things come to the worst, at least destroy Betelgeuse. Too dangerous to let alive, no matter what, which cult must be dealt first. For White Whale, if I can't get an army then use Excaliblast. White Whale also must be killed no matter what before entering Arc 4 so that in the future Archbishops of Gluttony can't use it. Royal Selection Crush have a special sword, comparable to a noble phantasm since it even killed demonic beasts that were famous in the past with only 1 slash and is able to wound White Whale who is maybe at the level of a monstrous beast. Anastasia, a mercenary and a greedy bastard, has a big army due to mercenary status. Her power is her army. This girl is the best source of information but needs to be repaid with an equal price. Priscilla, similar to Gilgamesh and strong on the day due to sun blessing. Has a sword that is comparable to a noble phantasm too. Compared to other candidates she is most likely the wealthiest. Knights Wilhelm, husband of a former sword saint, very skilled, even beating his own wife in the past and married her due to that. Threat level, high, since he used a sword for a long time and is very experienced. Also he clawed himself out from White Whale's stomach after he got swallowed. Ferris, has superb healing that allows him to control people organs and seems to be able to reconstruct his body if he is wounded fatally. Threat level, low, his magic probably won't do a thing with magic resistance. He seemingly doesn't have any other special abilities. Julius, have a pact with 6 spirits, his sword skills seems good as well. Threat level, moderate, he may have skills but compared to servant strength it is nothing, the spirits also can be repelled by magic resistance. Still, he is more skilled than me, to approach with care. Mimi and her brother can shoot some kind of sound wave and share their injury to lessen the damage they get. Threat level, high moderate, that sound wave is not magical and it is strong enough to blast a cave entrance down. If that hits, it could be endgame, not to mention their small figures and numbers which is also dangerous. Al, some mysterious guy from another world that can use earth magic. He was a gladiator before being picked by his boss. Threat level, moderate. Magic or not, cripple or not, he survived in this world and was a former gladiator. It still means something. He has some skills and experience, approach carefully. Warning: do not let anyone from Amelia faction get hit by fog of elimination or let them die. Do not let any of them go with Crush after fighting White Whale, they will be attacked by Archbishops of Glutton and Greed. Crush can know when you lie, always give an half-truth or at least use confusing facts like example of real stories from real world. Potential ally, Crush, the best option, honorable, and one that likely won't use dirty tricks. Can be rash in making decisions, but she is still reasonable and logical. Anastasia, mercenary network, will be useful for gaining or spreading information. Greedy and needs to always give something in return after asking for help. Priscilla, list out from ally because she is too similar to Gilgamesh. Having her as ally will bring more problems than fortune. Only ask if things are really bad. I reread the short note I wrote before putting it back on the table. Leaning back into my chair, I rubbed my chin thoughtfully while trying to recall what else I should be worried of in the future. Arc 4 starts only a few days after the end of Arc 3. In Arc 3, I would be focused on the royal selection and the clash with White Whale and the witch cult. I obviously needed to focus on the latter as it would happen first. Not to mention that Arc 3 and 4 doesn't have any relation. I thought it was about visiting the sanctuary and meeting the other witches sealed there. Or, was it Arc 5 that has no relation with the others? Damn, it was so confusing. I did not remember about them since the novel had yet to be translated. For now, being in Arc 2, I shouldn't worry much. Unlike Subaru, I was far from defenseless with my new body. Sure, fighting with demonic dogs would happen, but with my new strength I should be able to deal with them without too much hassle. I only would need to face their numerical superiority until the repairing of the barrier. I would then be able to retreat. Rem and Ram is something I needed to think about. If they decided to attack me, Rem would be the most dangerous. Since their magic would be useless against me, they would resort to physical attacks, and Ram is quite bad in this regard. I was sure I could handle Rem as well, if I was careful. I didn't want to taste that spiky ball of her after all. What was it called again? Morningstar. How ominous. Therefore my survival in Arc 2 was guaranteed. Making a mistake could still be rectified as my opponents would be quite weak. Nothing major except character growth should be taken into account, and oh right. Do not let Rem get bitten by the demonic puppy. I added this information to the note and made a satisfied nod after reading it. I almost forgot about that one. There was an episode where Rem went to the village to buy supplies only to get bitten by a demonic puppy. Then Subaru jumped from a cliff to kill himself and save her. That was seriously messed up. In fact, it would be better to just kill the puppy and stop everything to even happen. Moreover, the shaman was actually the little girl Meili. She deliberately brought the tamed demonic beast into the village. For all I knew, she could be hired by Roswaal just like Elsa. This was highly possible as Amelia would be famous in the village after repairing the barrier. If I knocked her out then? No. I would let that happen. Facing a berserk Rem is the best choice. It sure would be a good practice for me. My future opponents would be very powerful, so I needed to face dangerous situations to improve myself. Was that a sign of my sanity slowly eroding? Planning to face dogs the size of humans and an Oni as a practice exercise. Really, if I was a normal human I would bang my head against a wall. But I was not normal, far from it. I really needed this to develop my skills so I could face bigger monsters. Besides, I didn't want to change the timeline too much. My goal was to go through canon events without dying. I had no reason to alter any of them. So taking out Meili would be a problem since she was from an assassin group. That would make me one of their target. For now, I didn't want that to happen. It was harsh, I concede. But I was not someone who used half-baked plans. I had to get strong, and fast. I had no intention to die even once. Knowing almost everything that would happen, I didn't need any more information. Although I knew about these vital information, there was one major problem. Time. When would they happen precisely? Due to Subaru looping ability, I was confused about the specific dates of each events. Arc 2 wouldn't be a problem as I could ask Rem when she needed to buy supplies and I would only have to go with her. Wanting to visit the village would be a good pretext. But the third arc would clearly be a big problem. If I was just onady late and made the wrong move, the whole village would die and the mansion would be assaulted too. Then if Amelia died. Sleep. Along with my daughter. I felt a chill crawling up my spine. Not good at all. That was the last thing I wanted to happen. Amelia was not allowed to die. Not just because it would make Puck go on rampage, but it also would equal my chance to return back home to zero. Whether she was Satella reincarnated or just an outer personality like Outer Mocha from Rosario Vampire didn't matter. She was the main character here. If Satella or the Witch of Envy could bring me here, then they might have a way for me to go back home. Moreover, if she did, then Amelia could do it as well. To fix her death, I would have to commit suicide and return to the past. Obviously this was the only option left. But I was not too keen on killing myself. It would be better if I could go without dying even once. I also planned to ask Beatrice about dimension travel, but for that I needed her to trust me first. I doubted it would be easy though, with her weird personality. But I didn't really have a choice. I had so many things to worry about. And I was not even here for more than 24 hours yet. Gag. I hated this situation already. It was 7 am. Well, more like 7 solar time according to this world. Apparently am. Turned to solar time while PM. To lunar time. It was a strange way to tell the time, but meh, who cared? I was awake since 5. I didn't know why, but my body was not tired anymore. I could say I was an early person, but to awake at 5? Now that's clearly something. Perhaps it was because I was not truly tired physically. My body was clearly in a very fit condition, it was only my mind that was troubled. So a little rest was more than enough to feel completely refreshed. I was tempted to go and walk around the mansion, however I decided not to. I meant, technically I was still a guest, a stranger. And having a stranger walk around was not the best idea to impress people. That's why I decided to stay in my room and start experimenting. I extended my hand, imagining myself plunging my hand in a pool of water, grabbing something and pulling it back. The next moment Excalibur covered by invisible air appeared in my hand. I could feel a breeze gently blowing in my face. I then released Excalibur from my grip while at the same time imagining dropping it in the pool of water. And just like that the last phantasm was gone. It was not comfortable for me to call and dismiss Excalibur like this. There was a sensation nagging in my mind, a magical sensation. However, after trying the process a few times more, I managed to summon the sword easily and this strange sensation was no longer bothering me. I slowly stood and glanced at the outfit I wore. Apparently since I didn't have sleeping clothes, Amelia decided to lend me some. Though rather than a sleeping outfit, it was more like one for the bath. One given to you when you go to the spa or sauna. Well, beggar couldn't be choosers, I guessed. Aside from summoning Excalibur, I also was able to summon my armor and dismiss it whenever I wanted. The process was quite similar, but instead of imagining Excalibur, I imagined myself covered in my armor from top to bottom and voila. I wished changing clothes was that easy in the real world. I turned around and looked over the room given to me. It wasn't bad, I got one of the guest rooms. There was an indoor bathroom clearly screaming nobility, with red blanket design and a king-sized bed. I briefly found myself staring in the mirror. It was not just the armor, the sword, and the strength. My appearance changed as well. My original black hairs were gone, replaced by blonde ones that was supposed to be a wig. Now they were real, it was almost like I was a natural blonde if not for the color itself. It was as if they got sprinkled with gold dust. My black eyes also turned to green, actual green, emerald even. I was not complaining though, I was looking good, better as a matter of fact. And my body. I got abs now. The muscles on my arms, shoulders and chest were also quite visible. Not buff but slim and fit. HAA, if only I could look that good in real life. Suddenly I heard someone knock at my door, breaking me from admiring myself. Who was coming this early in the morning? Amelia? I thought she had to talk with spirits in the morning. Come in, I answered. The door opened, but instead of the familiar silver-haired half-elf, it was the twins. Aaron-sama, you already woke up. Aaron-sama, you woke up early. My left eye twitched hearing them spoke in stereo. They were wearing maid outfit that could belong to cosplayers and their hair color was truly strange. But the way they spoke. God, it was almost like a female-made version of Fred and George Weasley from Harry Potter. Though they indeed looked cute. When it was people cosplaying and having unnatural hair color, there was always something that screamed uncommon. However, on these two, somehow it looked natural. Amelia's silver hairs gave that feeling too. Still, pink, blue and those outfits, it was too much. The fact that they both were literally cute didn't help either. Gay. I seriously needed to get used to this. Good morning to you too, I greeted back with a polite voice. May I ask what bring you two to my room this morning? We came here to awaken you, but it seems unnecessary, answered Rem stoically. We came here to wake you up, but you already did, added Ram with a similar tone. It doesn't surprise me for some reason. You look like a competent person. It doesn't shock me. You look like a diligent person. Thank you, I said with a slight smile, inwardly rolling my eyes. Of course I did, I had the appearance of King Arthur after all. Not to mention that there was my charisma skill as well. Did Amelia Dano already woke up too? She did, we awoke her first, answered Ram monotonously. As if being called, the door opened and the silver-haired girl poked her head in. A smile crossed her face when she caught sight of me. Aaron, you're awake, she said with a happy voice, entering the room. Good morning. Morning Amelia Dano, I greeted back. What? I blinked, noticing her gaze. She only kept on staring at me with an expectant look. It took me a moment to understand what she wanted and let out a sigh. Good morning Amelia, I repeated. Better. She gave me an approving smile. How did you sleep? Pretty good. How about you? Same, I feel refreshed. Since it is still early, why don't I give you a tour, she offered. I guess it would be good to walk around by a fresh morning like this. Very well, let me change first. Can't go walking around in this kind of outfit, can I? Not bad, I commented as I looked around. I was clad in my armor, whereas Amelia still was in her sleepwear. Though she had a purple short-sleeved shirt acting as a jacket on top. The garden seems very well tended. Indeed, the garden here is beautiful, agreed Amelia as she walked on my side. Do you like gardens, Aaron? I won't say I dislike them, I answered. I do enjoy beauty, but to take care of it, well. I see. Then you must have seen quite a few of them. You can say so. Singapore is famous for their clean places, gardens are very beautiful, and sometime I spent a while sitting in some of them. This garden, while beautiful in his own right, did not hold a candle to my country's. Ha! This place is quite big, I hummed, looking around. It's good for practicing. Practice? Asked Amelia with curious eyes. Well, I usually practice swordsmanship in the morning, I said. I wanted to go out to train this morning too. But as I'm a guest and virtually a stranger, it would have been suspicious for me to wander around. Hearing this, Amelia put on a face I couldn't describe. She seemed to want to say something but refrained to do so. Well, it is actually fine. However, I get what you are trying to say, she said with a nod. Next time you want to train, you just need to tell Ram or Rem. I'm sure they will understand if you explain. I will next time, I responded, resuming my sightseeing. For a manor this big, I wonder how many people live inside. I commented, trying to make small conversation. Not many, only the Lord, Beatrice, Ram, and me and Puck. Only 6. And only 2 maids to take care of this place. Yes, nodded Amelia. I know, it surprised me too. But those 2 are actually very good at their job. They clean the mansion very efficiently every day. They also do daily chores at the same time. They must be pretty skilled then, I hummed while rubbing my chin. Taking care of a place this big just by themselves, they have quite the stamina. Amelia only gave another nod. Suddenly she remembered something. Ah, I almost forgot. Aaron, I am going to talk with the lesser spirits for a moment, do you mind waiting for me? Not at all, I answered. Take your time, no need to hurry. It's still early after all. She gave a nod before walking away to the corner. I watched as she brushed the ground softly before sitting down. Then I watched in fascination as pale lights began to surround her. They appeared from thin air. It was quite the unique sight. Compared to Firefly's lights, it was clearly on another level. I mean, the lights were so bright despite the shining sun. I shook my head slightly. That was cool, alright. Since I had time, it's best to try a few things. I took a few steps away from Emilia to an open space and called Excalibur to my hand. I closed my eyes, both hands gripped firmly on the sword, and took a few calming breaths. Then I swung down once, twice, thrice. I kept swinging, all the while keeping my eyes to the front, focused. I made sure to only use the necessary part of my body so I wouldn't waste any movement. Like I did when I fought Elsa. I took lessons in kendo, but I could not consider it myself good. I was a beginner. Losing against Elsa despite having superior strength and speed was proof of that. She kicked my ass. I could only defend myself from being cut in two. Remember, every strike you deliver must be fast. Swift but clean. Strong but controlled. Do not lose your balance. It's a death sentence in the battlefield. Aim with accuracy. Do not miss and display any opening no matter what. Use the ground to support you. Set your foot properly, your back straight and firm. Use your hips to generate power. Struck with purpose. Your strike must be clean. Your strike must be swift. Your strike must be fast. Your strike must be accurate. I didn't know how long I kept swinging my sword. However, for each strike, for each swing I delivered, I made sure it was faster than the previous one. At the same time, I kept my posture straight and unchanging. I also controlled my strength so I wouldn't lose my balance and cause any collateral damage. Focus. Do not let your mind wander. Focus on your target. Clear your mind. Your sword is a part of you. It is the extension of your limbs. Control it. Just like you control your legs and hands. It moves as you will. Then I changed my stance. After delivering a downward swing, I performed an uppercut slash and a vertical swing again. I kept my body straight as best as I could despite being uncomfortable as I wasn't used to it. Though after 6 or 7 repeats I began to perform each move more easily. It was as if my body knew how to act, as if it already had the memory of the movements. It just had forgotten and needed to remember them. It was a very strange sensation, but I didn't truly mind. To say that Emilia was awed was an understatement. Truthfully, Capital City was the first public place she ever visited, followed by Arlem. But even so, she never truly looked around, she merely passed through so she could arrive to Roswaal's mansion. She was knowledgeable about how were used swords and different weapons. She had at least the common sense to know such mundane things as she had seen many knights and warriors wielding their weapon in the past. But what she was seeing right now, it was blowing her mind. It wasn't smooth. No, it was rough. However, it still had a touch of beauty and control. That was her thoughts the first time she looked in his direction. She was about to stop Aaron but decided to let him practice and watch him instead. As the seconds and minutes passed, Aaron's movements began to change. Emilia couldn't help but stare at him. No longer were his swings rough, they became more polished. They still had an edge, but they were cleaner, swifter and faster. Undoubtedly fast. Emilia was not sure she could move that fast. Then again, she was a spirit arts user, not a sword user, so she trained in a different way. Then Aaron began to pull his sword up from its bottom position, delivering 2 slashes. Up and down, up and down. It was so remarkable in her opinion. He was so into it that he looked possessed. Yet his sharp green eyes that remained focused told her he had total control. He was aware of what he did and didn't seem to be stopping anytime soon. Hi-ya. Morning. The appearance of the cat spirit stopped Emilia from watching the oblivious Aaron. Hi Puck, morning, she greeted him kindly. How was your rest? I feel pretty good, answered Puck as he landed on her palm and stared up at her. How about you? Same as you, I feel pretty good too. Emilia smiled, seeing Puck always made her happy. He was like the father she never had. Puck nodded, very happy his daughter was feeling fine and was in a good mood. He was drawn from his observation by the sound of blowing winds and look at its cause. This is Aaron, he commented absently. Not bad, he is fast at least, I can give him that. Fast was one way to put it, Aaron's strikes were almost invisible to her eyes. Emilia was sure she would miss them if she blinked. You need to be careful around him, Lia. Puck suddenly said. Despite resting lazily on her palm, his intense gaze never left the blonde boy. He is quite a confusing person. Amelia tilted her head in curiosity. But you said he was okay. You didn't detect any hostile or ill intent. I did, nodded Puck. It was true, ever since Aaron met Amelia yesterday he didn't feel any bad intents from him even once. Rather, he was wary and afraid that Amelia would be injured. There was also conflicting feelings as if he was confused about what to do. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have any hidden intentions. True, it might be not bad, but we still don't know what it is. Amelia pursed her lips. That could be true. Aaron himself didn't act like a good person. He had his moments, she had seen it yesterday after all. With Puck on her side she could tell he was sincere. He just had an uncommon way to show his goodwill and acted way too harshly. But Amelia couldn't imagine Aaron as an evil person. There was something around him that was whispering he was not a bad person. His aura, the way he carried himself also was chivalrous despite his odd methods. But something told her that Aaron's act was justified. Though I would feel safer if you stayed with him rather than Roswaal, added Puck while pawing at her face. Amelia looked surprised at hearing that. Really? Yep, nodded Puck. Forgetting Aaron, Roswaal himself was a complicated person in Puck's opinion. He had absolutely no malice or ill intent toward them and felt supportive of Amelia. That's why Puck allowed Amelia to go with them. However, there was something that bothered him about Roswaal. Puck did not know what, but he felt the man was familiar or something like that. And whatever that was, it made him very cautious about the clown-looking archmage. Returning to Aaron, Puck could sense genuine worry for Amelia from him. Yesterday he almost got killed and Puck could sense actual fear from him. Fear of dying. That was more than enough for Puck. Aaron was not acting, he was truly fighting the vampire, fighting to protect Amelia. But that didn't mean he would let down his guard around Aaron. Amelia was his top priority after all. Also, this amount of mana I can feel from him. Aside from Amelia he never felt mana so powerful before. Roswaal was strong and could rival Amelia. But Aaron? Aaron surpassed Roswaal completely. As a matter of fact, Aaron's mana was so potent, he could be compared to the witches of Sin themselves. Not to mention his strength and speed. They were all inhumane. Even now, the way he swung his sword was too powerful and too fast. He was an anomaly. He was hiding things, many things actually. And that was why Puck did not completely approve his presence despite his worries for Amelia. Amelia-sama. Puck was brought out of his musings as he and Amelia turned to see the twin maids Ram and Rem standing not far from them. Yes? Asked Amelia. Roswaal-sama has returned. Aaron? I paused in the middle of my swing, the invisible sword in my hand let out a small burst of wind at the sudden halt, before calming down. I turned to the one who called my name and saw Amelia with Puck on her right shoulder and Rem not far behind them. Amelia, I greeted back as I lowered my sword. Are you already done? Amelia blinked at me as if I had said something strange before she let out a small laugh. That's my question. Huh? You were so focused on your training, it is already past 9. I stared at her as if she grew a second head and an extra arm. We got outside at only 8 in the morning. And now it was already 9. Woman, are you sick? I'm not lying, said Amelia. My look must have given me away. I was done with talking with the lesser spirits about 40 minutes ago. I wanted to call you but you looked so focused I decided not to. 40 minutes? I kept swinging this sword for more than 40 minutes. That long? I barely felt anything. True, I felt warm but it probably was because I was exercising. I stared at the invisible sword in my hand. Was I really that focused? All I did was making my mind clear, focusing and remembering everything I learned. Then repeat the moves. It was nothing extraordinary. It's rude to make a lady wait for you, boy, commented Puck as he hovered around the half-elf. And you call yourself a knight? Still in training. I am not one yet, I answered. Puck's cute face somehow turned blank. For a cat to have this expression it was very disturbing. When I heard that yesterday I laughed, but now I know just what that vampire felt, he replied annoyed. Sorry if I offended you with the truth, oh great spirit of ice. Amelia let out a small laugh, myself I felt my lips curled into a smirk as I dismissed Excalibur and approached them. I felt Puck's gaze lingering on where it disappeared, before he exclaimed. Don't laugh too, ya. You're being mean right now. Sorry Puck, said Amelia in a soft voice. She seemed to truly mean it. Morning Puck Dono, how was your rest? I asked. I'm fine, got a good sleep, he answered flippantly, waving his long tail. You should greet me first rather than make a comment with this sharp tongue of yours. I'm not the one who started it, I replied dully, prompting the cat's right eye to twitch once. Aaron-sama, pardon for the intrusion, but Roswaal-sama has returned, spoke Ram, cutting our conversation. Breakfast will be served in 10 minutes, so it might be good for you to clean yourself first. Oh, that clown already returned? Time to start the show, let's see what you have, Imperial Wizard. The lord of this manor, I assume? I asked rhetorically before nodding. Very well, I will change my attire to an appropriate one then. I guess I'm not looking bad. Aaron said that aloud while observing himself in the mirror. He was clad in a loose black coat and a red shirt, followed by a neat brown pant and black shoes. It was the casual outfit of Saber prototype. H needed to admit, it was very fitting. Even now, he still found hard to believe that his average appearance turned into what he now looked like. A model from a magazine. He wondered what was going to happen when he would return to his world. Was he going to stay looking the same? Was he going to lose his powers? It was sure, his family would not recognize him. He was Asian by birth, and now he really looked like an English gentleman. And a handsome one on the top of that. I'm going to cross that bridge later. For now, I need to find a way home. Even if my family do not recognize me, it's fine. I'm sure I can reassure them somehow. I don't want to stay in this dangerous world, he said to himself with a nod as he began to walk to the door. As he left his room he was greeted by the sight of Ram waiting for him. Hello Ram-san, sorry for making you wait, he said, giving her a smile. Ram stared at the blonde's smiling face for a moment before she eventually responding with a bow. It's not a problem Aaron-sama, follow me, I will lead the way to the dining hall, she gestured him to follow her politely. Sure. As they began to walk together, Aaron couldn't help but keep his eyes to the hallway. If he recalled right, Subaru was walking around the same place even when he tried to go straight forward. Did it mean this was a magical house? Was there a boundary field covering this place? Logically it should have one since Roswaal is a famous magician, but he couldn't sense it. Was it maybe his magic resistance? Or this place really didn't have any magical protection? This was also still the Age of Gods, as there was a huge amount of mana in the atmosphere. Unlike in the Nasaverse, the world itself was supporting the living inhabitants by giving them its blessing. The so-called divine blessing that people had. Or was it divine protection? Meh, same purpose, different words. He felt lucky being summoned as Saber, as the magic here could be very dangerous. If he got Lancer, Rider, Archer or any other class he could easily be killed. Facing the Archbishop of Sin without a high magic resistance was equal to suicide. For a mansion this big, you and your sister are doing a very good job at keeping it clean, he commented absently, trying to make conversation with the pink-haired maid. Thank you Aaron-sama. Ram keeping her voice polite and stoic added, and for someone who looks chivalrous, you have quite a sharp tongue. Aaron felt his lips twitch, he was not offended but rather amused. She had to speak about his conversation with Puck in the garden. Look can be very deceiving Ram-san. People often say that about me, he chuckled. Make no mistake, I can be quite chivalrous when the need comes. I see. So Aaron-sama is someone who has two faces. He let out a small laugh, he didn't expect less from her. Just like in the anime she literally had an, I don't give a shit, attitude. I like you Ram-san, I think we will get along pretty well in the future. You're a strange person Aaron-sama, said Ram but there was no bite in her voice. Both of them continue walking in a comfortable silence. After one turn, Aaron saw Amelia and Rem waiting in front of the room he guessed was the dining hall. Amelia. Rem-san, he greeted them, making both the girl turn to him. Aaron H. Amelia paused when she caught sight of Aaron smiling gently in their direction, hands in his pockets and walking in an elegant manner. She slowly shook her head and resumed her greeting, hello Aaron. Aaron-sama. Rem bowed graciously after a moment of staring. Aaron gave her a nod, somehow refreshed at seeing Rem, he knew just how sweet she could be. He remembered this girl loyalty was second to none. How she pushed herself even when breaking apart, literally, arms, legs and even her neck got broken, but she still forced herself to rescue Subaru. He cringed inwardly as he remembered that scene. Episode 15 was the most emotional episode in the Re-Zero anime for him. That scene where she dragged herself, that would not happen this time. Rem would not need to suffer like that, he would make sure of it. He might barely know her, but there was no way he would let someone live through that. Yet, he had to remember that no matter how sweet and cute Rem was, she was the same girl that pummeled and mangled Subaru beyond recognition. The girl that brutally murdered him without hearing his reasons. Granted, her hatred was justified as the witch cult were a bunch of assholes and really bad guys that needed to be mutilated. But Subaru was innocent. Couldn't she see his obvious terror, fear and pain when she struck him? When she declared she hated him? Then again, she was an Oni. Even in Naciverse they tended to lose control and go insane. He was not fan of Tsukihime, but Akiha Tona also went batshit crazy when her demon blood activated and overwhelmed her human blood. He was confused. On one hand, what Rem did could not be justified. But on the second hand, she couldn't be blamed seeing what happened to her and that Subaru smelled like the witch. It didn't matter anyway. Why did he think so much? It was not like he cared about it. Unlike Subaru, who was defenseless, he would be ready if Rem decided to give him a visit or something like that. Shall we enter first or wait for Roswaal-sama? Asked Eren. No need for that. A smooth, masculine and sing-song voice came from behind him. It reminded Eren of the voice of Barcelino or Admiral Kizaru from One Piece, but more annoying. He slowly turned around, just in time to see the Archmage coming out of the door nearest to their location. He looked just like what Eren expected. No, scratch that. He looked freakier in reality. He really meant it. He wore makeup like a clown. A clown, for God's sake. He still could tolerate his attire since he looked like a classic magician from a circus. But his face? Makeup. But Eren knew just what kind of monster was beneath that stupid face. Just what kind of creature was hiding under that weirdo makeup. TV trope needs to add clown or evil in their rank, would be better than monster clown. Eren thought dryly, Roswaal could be categorized as monster clown since he took his descendants' bodies to stay alive until now. Roswaal-sama, I take it. Indeed, drawled Roswaal with smile. Eren Pendragon-san, I take it, he responded with the same question. Truthfully, the boy already found his way of talking annoying, but he refrained to make any comments. He had to get used to this, he told himself once again. Yes, thank you for having me. So polite. I was expecting you to be more informal. It's just common courtesy to show such behavior to the owner of the mansion, said Eren in a light voice. Though I can behave in that way if you want me to. Oh. Roswaal quirked his eyebrow, then please do so. It's always boring when people are too formal. If you say so. Shall we enter then? Everyone entered the dining room and took a seat. Roswaal at the Lord place, while Emilia and Eren were facing each other. The blonde saber couldn't help but feel that something was missing as he took his seat. Something he forgot. Think about it later, right now you're in presence of Puck. Don't appear suspicious, he chided himself. He couldn't let his emotions get out of control in this conversation. He already scored enough negative points in Puck's book in his opinion. Pardon us, Eren-sama. Rem shall set the meal. Pardon us, Eren-sama. Ram shall set the tableware and the tea. Eren noted the food consisted of a salad, bread and a creamy chicken soup. Inwardly he quirked an eyebrow. How British and medieval. This kind of food could fit for a noble meal at that period. And it was healthy too, actually. As they began to eat, he had to concede that while not the best food he ever had, it still counted as great in his mind. He decided to be polite and gave a compliment. May I ask who the chef is? Rem is, Eren-sama, answered Rem. He gave her a small smile. My compliment to you then. It's delicious. Indeed, the food is quite delicious as usual, agreed Roswaal as he glanced to the blue-haired maid. Thank you for your words, Eren-sama, Roswaal-sama. Rem accepted the compliment without showing any emotion. Meanwhile, Eren began to plan how to make the maid like him. Since only Rem was free and open, or rather she didn't have a special relationship. Ram was close to Roswaal, Emilia to Puck. Rem was close only to Ram, not to anyone else. She followed Roswaal because of her sister, yet she did not have a very strong bond with Ram as she was tempted to run away with Subaru. If Aaron managed to get Rem, it meant Ram would also help him. After all, Ram knew the truth about Roswaal and would be very helpful. Since when did I become a thinker like this, he asked himself. Maybe he did not only inherit Saber's strength but also her experience in leading people. That certainly would include his charisma. Do you eat food like this every day? I envy you, Rose, said Aaron with a small smirk. Wheeliel, what can I say? I have very good maids, replied Roswaal in an amused voice. His eyes twinkled a little when he heard his new nickname. He didn't comment on it though. They resumed to eat in silence, the only sounds being Puck, who ate his egg eagerly, enjoying his breakfast like there was no tomorrow. Wheel, began Roswaal as he finished his food. He noted that Aaron had finished too and smiled at him. Shall we begin our talk? Yes, nodded Aaron, tilting his head. And let's cut the pleasantries, Rose, ask your questions. Straight to the point. I like it. Roswaal chuckled. Will, first Aaron Pendragon-san. Allow me to welcome you in the kingdom of Lugnica. I heard from Emilia-sama that you're a foreigner, right? Indeed I am. Ah, do you care to elaborate how you came here? As far as I recall, the port is currently closed to any visitors save for goods and stock. Aaron thought about his answer carefully. Lugnica, as he recalled, was currently a mess. True, there was no visible chaos in the kingdom, but it had no leader. It had no ideal, no roots, it was stagnant. Moreover, it was isolated. Lugnica didn't welcome any tourists from the common people. They only accepted important people such as nobles or ambassadors of other kingdoms. He was sure that Emilia and the twin maids thought he was the former. Maybe Reinhard too, thanks to his charisma. If not, the red-haired knight would have taken him for an inquiry yesterday. I'm an illegal immigrant. He heard a choke from Emilia and spared her a glance. The poor girl was pounding her chest as her food got into the wrong hole. Puck was already behind her, patting her back in relief. He also sent him a glare as if it was his fault. Aaron was sure he would have sweat-dropped if he was in an anime. He was not responsible for that. He said that because it was the truth. It just happened that it was when she swallowed her food. Blame her luck, not him. He also briefly caught a flabbergasted look from the maids before their faces returned to stoic ones. I illegal immigrant? Asked Emilia in an astounded voice. But you said you were a noble. I am, answered Aaron. But I never said I came to this place by legal means, did I? It's more like he was teleported directly here. He didn't think that was a legal way to visit a kingdom without a king. Roswaal meanwhile blinked, once, twice before he let out a big laugh, his heterochromatic eyes twinkling in amusement. I had a theory that you were an illegal immigrant. However, I am clearly surprised you admitted it aloud like that. I see no use in lying. I'm an illegal immigrant. You won't find any legal documents in my bag, said Aaron with a shrug. Because of that, I guess fate decided to make a joke by having me scammed and sent to the capital rather than my original destination. And why someone from a noble family would come to Lugnica in an illegal manner? What do you think? Asked Aaron back in a dry voice. His green eyes were looking at the clown scrutinizing him. He was aware he was spouting crap right now, and it was a very risky move. However, he also knew that no one could tell he was lying. Puck was not a mind reader or a lie detector like Crush. He was an empath, on that could feel other people's emotions. As long as he stayed calm and kept his intent for Emilia clear, the spirit wouldn't harm him. He was sure of that. Roswaal's cheerful demeanor was gone. There was a new glint in his eyes as he stared at the blonde boy. You're an escapee. It wasn't a question, but a statement. In a way, admitted Aaron. That's what he was. Escapee, someone who escaped. Escaped from death that was threatening him had he not made sure of Emilia's survival. However, no need to be afraid, nobody is chasing me. The world already think I'm dead. Again, that was true. To his world right now, he was as good as dead. Are you sure? With my life, answered firmly Aaron. He did not hesitate as it was the truth. Such conviction and serious face. Roswaal chuckled, his eyes twinkling. And here I was thinking maybe it was you who hired Elsa Granhirt to steal Emilia-sama's insignia. Inwardly, Aaron's eyebrow twitched. Oh, fuck this guy. Look who's talking. So this is how he was going to deal with him, huh? Now Aaron started to understand. Unlike Subaru, who was head over heels for Emilia, he was not. Emilia was without a doubt beautiful, but it was still far from enough to make him fall for her. Subaru was easily manipulated in the earlier volumes because he was an idiot. An innocent teenager that didn't know how the world worked. Whereas Eren was far from that. He wasn't an expert, but he clearly was not stupid. He already worked for his father company and had seen how his father talked with people. He might not be a complete master yet, but having the knowledge of what kind of person was Roswaal was enough to read the man. If only a little. Right now, he was trying to see what kind of person Eren was, so he could create plans compatible with his personality. Clever bastard. Eren is not like that. Emilia suddenly came to his defense, surprising both Roswaal and Eren. He's not the one who tried to steal my insignia. My daughter is right, agreed Puck. Yesterday when he fought that girl, she truly wanted to kill him. And Eren was very scared when she snapped. The cat's spirit was actually thinking like Roswaal at first, but dismissed his doubts when he had proofs that what happened yesterday was too much to be an act. Elsa displayed such raw emotion and anger, it had to be real. Eren really pissed her off. I was about to have a dagger the size of 2 feet piercing my face, dryly defended Eren. I'm sure that is enough to be afraid. We'll. Roswaal chuckled lightly. If Emilia-sama is supporting you like that. Fiend, I guess you are indeed someone that can't be trusted, he said in good-natured voice. Forgive me for accusing you like that. As a count, that was very impolite of me. He gave a small bow with his head to show he meant it. It's fine, I can understand where you are coming from, replied Eren with a nonchalant shrug. I would do the same thing had I been in your position. Emiliadano's status as a royal candidate is something very important to the kingdom. He was going to get him back for accusing him like this, make no mistake. As a matter of fact, he had the mind to make a bad clown joke but refrained himself. Not this early, or not now at least. It would raise suspicion and made him score negative points for being rude. In the future though, he would pay him back. Just you wait, you damn clown. Still, something make me confused. Emiliadano is someone who is very important, isn't she? Yet, I found her wandering around the city alone, said Eren with narrowed eyes. Well. I would call it unprecedented. Ram should have been with her. Replied Roswaal while shooting a strained smile to Ram. The pink-haired maid did not even look sheepish or sorry in the slightest. Her face was devoid of any emotion, and that made Eren left eye twitch again. Asshole, that was completely what you intended from the beginning. Ram is the one most loyal to you, and I'm sure you ordered her to not search for Emilia so she could meet me, thought Eren with irritation. Emilia raised her hand with an awkward look on her face. It's not Ram's fault. Yesterday I split up with Ram because I was curious and wandered around. The look Eren shot her was more than enough to make her face turned in a grimace, showing her regrets. For some reason I am not as angry as I should be, he murmured dryly. Emilia's eyebrow twitched hearing that. She felt insulted with the way he spoke. It was as if he expected her to make such error. Still, you clearly can't expect to get away by blatantly blaming your servant, can you? Eren's attention was back on Roswaal. You're responsible for this as well, you're her lord after all. You are absolutely right, agreed Roswaal. I shouldn't have done that, he said with a nod. It was completely my fault. And I am very grateful you were there and helped Emilia-sama. He then clapped his hands and spread them wide. Very well then. I will go the point. I need to repay you for what you did. So tell me, Pendragon-san, what do you seek from this man? He asked with a big smile. Eren narrowed his eyes at his offer, knowing exactly what the man's game was. This was actually what Roswaal wanted. He pretended to get cornered and then he would offer him a place at the mansion in exchange. Eren was sure the clown mage knew he didn't have any place to stay and was a complete stranger. The Echidna's gospel must have told him. Is this what people feel when they are about to make a deal with the devil? Thought Eren as he stared at the taller man. He didn't have any choice now, he had to stay with Emilia so he could get back home. He couldn't escape from here on his own, and Roswaal had to know Eren needed them as much as they needed him to support Emilia and reach their own goal. He would let him have this round all right. Right now I don't have anywhere to go, admitted Eren. My plan was to find a nice place and start over. It wasn't a lie, he did have that plan when he had yet to know he was in Re-Zero universe. I guess I can use your offer for that. He tilted his head and smiled a bit. If you won't mind, then can I stay here for free? Roswaal smiled and Aaron swore he could feel his satisfaction knowing that everything went just like he hoped for. Of course. That was actually less than I expected, he answered. From now on, you will be treated as a guest in this place, he declared as he rose from his seat. That's good enough I suppose, said Aaron with a nod as he stood up as well. Of course I won't just walk around and do nothing, I will try to help if something happen. Both men walked to close the distance between them. The taller one extended his hand and the shorter one took it. They gave each other a firm handshake, a sign that the deal had been sealed. Amelia could only watch what just transpired with a face full of confusion. What just happened? She knew that Roswaal offered something to Aaron since he had helped her. Aaron wished to stay here for free. But she felt there was something bigger happening between them. She just didn't know what. She still had much to learn if she wanted to be a good king for Lugnica. Meanwhile Aaron only had one thought. I hate clowns. So much. Clowns are bad. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.